Welcome back to another episode of Reeeal Talk, episode number
36. 35.
Forgive this guy. There you go. Episode number 35. Pastor, executive, chef, regional now. Oh, okay.
Chef.
What are you certified as?
I'm a certified executive chef through the American Culinary Federation.
All right, that's great. Great news to hear. How was your week?
Fantastic.
Seeing if we can get another word out of you besides fantastic, but
How could you? That's great.
I know, but it's so staged. We want to have some kind of interaction. It just seems like I'm just going to make sure every time I come here, my one word is going to be fantastic, and that's it.
Fantastic.
This guy here. Anything exciting, general, that you can talk about that happened? Any new dishes that you created, that you made,
I don't hear about
that you came up with?
No.
No? Any new guests you're going to bring on Time and Honey? All right. Well, listen. Last episodes 33 and 34, we went through another moment of transparency. And so those were great episodes. Make sure you check out episode 33 and 34. And we wanted to continue.
Our last episode.
First Lady Foreman.
First Lady
Phenomenal
Foreman.
First Lady Foreman.
You
Yeah.
don't call her First Lady.
Right.
It's just Mrs. Foreman. Sister Foreman.
To different people, different things, but Renita is generally what I call her by, but she has no problem with being called First Lady, and she wanted me to make sure that I stated that she's with her first ladies of the church. She just doesn't want to feel like there's some added.
Just go to 33 and 34.
Right.
And listen to what we talk about when it comes to this First Lady term.
Yes.
This generically created, man-made title.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Just calm down a little bit, buddy.
Hey, we got somebody else with us today.
Oh, look at him being a co-host over here. Look at him. He knows how to not just answer questions. He knows how to.
Look who we have here with us.
So,
we have a guest.
Yeah. Calm down, personal assistant. What we do have a guest. Okay, as I was transitioning to transparency moment, we do have another wonderful guest, and we're just going to continue on this series. I like it. I like being able to ask, questions and put people in the hot seat to be able to talk about real conversations that can benefit us as believers. And so, without further ado, Miss, would you please announce yourself?
My name is Laresha.
Yeah, just give us the name. Announce yourself. This guy over here.
I do want to take a quick break and just go put the boxing gloves on, but I'm trying to be as holy as I can. We prayed before this thing.
Who even says that?
This...
They don't even say that on TV. Announce yourself.
Okay, this
Say,
guy.
what's your name?
He must have drank his coffee today. That's that. You're all the way turned up right now. Okay.
A second ago I was nothing, and now I'm turned up.
Just fantastic. Stay over there, fantastic. All right. Miss Laresha.
How are you this evening?
I don't know what to answer.
How you doing? How are you feeling this evening?
Fantastic.
Fantastic. How's your week been?
Busy.
Busy.
Very busy.
All right, that's an added word. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too, because it seems like we can go somewhere with that busy. We can actually talk about what's going on versus just saying fantastic. Well, Laresha, I don't want to, ask you too many things right now. I just want to hop right into the topic. If I start asking you different things about your life, your week, and maybe it'll start connecting on these questions, and I want to make sure we get all the questions that we possibly can out of you, because I feel like this topic is something that other people, other believers can benefit from. So, without further ado,
What is the topic?
the topic is called Life of a PK. Okay.
Life of a PK.
Life of a PK. Now,
The acronym for PK would be?
This guy, man, love you. Hey, right there. Yeah, there we go. As if I needed your help. PK stands for a pastor's kid. Now, some people, depending upon if they don't call themselves pastors, they'll call themselves preachers, and they'll still be
A PK.
considered a PK. But it's generally known as being a pastor's kid. And, if you've been in church before, you know about a stigma that comes with that. You understand different things about that. And so what I like to do, and especially here on Transparency Moment, we want to walk through people who actually have lived that, went through it, and I can just sit back and just be the great host that I, have been called to be. And it's in one of those scriptures somewhere. And,
Wow.
and
Yikes.
just be able to benefit you guys. So, when you hear, LaRusha, when you hear PK, right? You hear the word. What's your first thoughts when you hear that term?
Your immediate reaction.
Immediate reaction.
Prepackaged.
Prepackaged. Okay, break down the package,
sheesh,
please.
We're about to go into.
What do you mean by that? In my tactics, like what do you mean by prepackaged?
Well, prepackaged to me basically means that we come ready made. Like we're already ready to be presented to the church as a perfect being. We are the example for what other children in the church should look like and be like. We don't sin. We don't have feelings. We just exist to make our parents look good.
Oh, wow.
That's deep.
This is going to be a great episode here. I can already tell you that right now. Yeah, this is going to be some real talk. Okay, so yowzers. Prepackaged. I think that was a great breakdown of what you meant by that. But I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna continue to ask some more questions, and we'll dance back around to addressing those things. So in this being prepackaged, did you ever feel like you were a part of that you had more bonds with people by being like a PK?
No, actually, I felt quite the opposite. I often felt ostracized. I felt looked down on. I felt alone, both at church and at home. I felt unheard. I felt misunderstood. How many words can we use?
We can keep this going. We can keep this
Because
going.
Each one of those could probably be unpackaged, right?
I don't feel like I had a bond with the people at church. I feel like I was in my own separate bubble. Because of the position that I never really signed up for, I was just kind of born into it. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me ask you this. So, and we're gonna come back to that piece. You mean to tell me that you're pushed in front of all these people for these people to look at and see in the church, right? You're pastor, then you're the pastor's kid, and everybody's looking at you and paying attention to your way of life and how you're living, and you had no influence to persuade people in the faith with that role and title?
No.
Wow. So you're pushed usher to the front, live a certain lifestyle. Because I ask this because with pastors, people kind of base their way of living sometimes. Not saying that it's right, but it's like, man, Steve went out there and did this. He got up at 4 o'clock in the morning and going to pray. I'm going to think about that one day. You kind of say these things like, he did it, I want to go out there and do it. So it's like, all right, you see a pastor kid doing that. You're like, hey, well, maybe they have the voice enough to be able to say like, hey guys, you see me doing this here. But it seems like from your experience, it's complete opposite. You got pushed out in the front for people to criticize and pick you apart, but there was no balance to that. It's like, that's okay, right? We look at superstars or celebrities where it's like, they know what comes with the territory of being out there in the open. You can get criticized, but you also can be like uplifting uplifting to people, right? But seems like you're saying, no, that didn't happen at all. It was more so like, stay away from.
I think like if I was in the front doing ministry, like if I was singing or something like that, then I could be of use. But aside from that, I was definitely an omen, or that's at least how people refer to me. But I think that they looked at me in a way that I didn't see myself, as if I was supposed to be walking the chalk line, but I didn't see the line because I was still a kid. So like, yeah.
I wonder if this is just me now, just sharing some things, because I have my views about this as far as being a pastor, having children who would be considered PKs, but the way my wife and I approach certain things, just because we've seen the damage being raised in churches, a lot of different things that we saw the damage of what happens with PK kids. But anyways, so I'm just wondering, do you feel like sometimes the kids that are PK kids aren't given the opportunity to grow organically?
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying? Because you said prepackaged, so they don't get the chance to grow organically. They're forced to grow or to be a certain type, and therefore they themselves don't even understand what it means to grow organically, because they're being told this is how you have to be, without any of the developments that should go with it. Because I'm going to naturally grow spiritually. In order to grow spiritually, you have to grow mentally first. You have to grow in a mentality to know what it means to grow spiritually. So if I don't have the ability to grow naturally in my mentals, my thinking, then how would I ever be able to perform spiritually? You know what I'm saying? So would you say then that they really don't give a chance for kids, PK kids, to grow organically in the church?
I think we're groomed
Right.
to do well at church.
To
but
do
not
church.
Right.
Oh, explain to do church.
Right.
What do you?
To do church. Like,
Yeah.
come, sit in the pew, be quiet. You should be able to report at least 2 of the things that were talked about in Sunday service. You might get filled with the Holy Ghost and roll on the floor.
Do all those things.
All those things that are expected of a good Christian kid, you know?
But yet, Monday through Saturday, it's like.
I think
whatever.
it depends on the household.
Okay.
So, for some people, the expectation may end after service is done. And then for others, it's expected for you to carry on that way for the entire week.
Heard. So, you mentioned how you were a child at this time and that they didn't give you a chance to really mature in the things of God or really learn. Can you walk us through, first of all, whichever one came first, whether it was you becoming saved or you becoming a PK, walk us through whichever one happened first, but walk us through both of those so we can gain a better perspective of what type of PK you are. Because some people don't become PKs till they're in their, they're teenagers. Some 5, some, before they even get here. If Steve's already pastoring at 25, probably has no choice. But some people, me, I didn't reach that until later on down the road. So walk us through that. And because that gains us even more clarity about what was unique about your experience of being a PK.
So my personal experience, I was born into that life. As a young kid, I don't even think I knew really what it meant. I think I just kind of knew that my parents were Christians. Mm-hmm. We went to church. And I think it didn't really hit me until like our home church split. And then we were attending other churches where my father was placed in leadership positions. And then it was like, okay, you're a leader. So that means your house has to be in order. And if your house is not in order, that leadership, you're stripped of it. So then that meant that, okay, if this is my position, then my wife is this way. My children are to behave this way. I should speak and walk and talk and act a certain type of way. And my family definitely needs to follow suit. So I think as I aged and we left that home church and we started to experience different groups of people, I definitely started to see, like, even though I'm a regular person, in my eyes, according to everybody else, I was like definitely held at a higher standard. Okay.
And what led you to being saved? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So
was that being in that home church?
No. So what happened was I moved out of my parents' home because their rule there was like, if you live here, you have to go to church. So I got an overnight job at the local Walmart, 24 hours. Shout out to Walmart. And then I got an apartment, and I just kind of was like living with a friend at the time. And I was kind of like going through some things, and I had a friend at the time who was saved before me, and she kept like talking to me and I was like, bro, I don't want to hear that I grew up in that. Please stop. Like, I don't need this in my life. But I think that God was definitely, I needed to be separated from my household in order to have an experience with God on my own. So I think that I started going back to church on my own because I just didn't want to be affiliated with anybody that my parents were affiliated with in terms of the churches that they were attending. So I started going to church on my own, and then I just feel like God was like peeling away the layers and helping me to be open to his voice. And yeah, he saved me, and you know, that was pretty much it. I think when I told my parents, well, my mom believed me, but my dad was like, I don't believe you're saved. So, shout out to all the preachers who don't believe their children are saved.
Shout out to all the pastors out there, you know. Well, hold on.
Children speaking tongues before they're
Well,
saved.
that's when he believed me. Actually, when I got filled with the Holy Spirit on my mother's birthday, he was like, oh, I'm so glad you're saved. I'm like, I've actually been saved since December, but okay.
When was your mother's birthday?
May 4th.
Cool. So, your father, who was a pastor, wanted to see the evidence of being saved.
And at
And
that time, it was the speaking in tongues to show that it was saved.
well, thank God you had that gift, because if not, he may still not believe you.
I'm sure some people believe I'm still leaving, but you know.
You don't.
She'll say her current pastor.
I was leaning more towards that way.
So wait a minute. Hold on. You're not going to be giving this pushback to the pastors. We're not going to go for that here on this show. Your father was a pastor, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Great man that I respect. So we're not going to.
We love him.
Yeah, we're not going to just thank you. So could you say that he was living the things that he was preaching?
Yes, absolutely. And I think for me, that was something that helped me come back. Because I think that a lot of people, they'll preach to their kids and they'll drag them to church Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, whatever. But then the lifestyle is not in the home. So one thing I can say about my parents that I'm grateful for is they definitely lived their Christianity in front of us. Like, there were things that they just did not do. And there was no one from the church that, was influencing them in the home. That was really their heart to provide a solid Christian household. But I just think it didn't translate well between church opinion and the opinions of your children who are kind of going through life.
Okay. So we got you to confirm that your parents lived what they were actually preaching. Check. Were they involved with making sure that you understood the things of God?
Yes. My mom is more gentle in her approach. My dad was very much like, he was kind of hard. It was very much, you need to get your soul saved and you're gonna, whatever, hell and things like that. And I think that it was like an ebb and flow with him where sometimes he was extremely hard when he felt like it wasn't sinking in. And then there would be times where we would just kind of kick it and he was more gentle. But I think, especially in my teenage years, I got the hard, you need to get your life together. And especially when he got sat down, because I brought a book to church that was a hood novel. So yeah, he got sat down in the church.
You brought to the house of God.
Yes.
The house of God.
For in the sanctuary.
In the sanctuary.
God is there. You
Where
brought
his
a hood.
presence
Yeah.
abides.
Where he comes down into the tabernacle.
Shekinah.
Yes.
And she brought a hood.
You brought a hood novel.
Yeah, I probably was reading like Be More Careful or something like that.
I don't know what that is, but do they have any pictures in them?
There are no pictures.
Okay. Okay. So how did anybody know what you were really into? They just saw that this isn't the Bible, and then they picked it up and said, "Oh, this
I'm
isn't."
pretty sure it was like a Nosy Nancy.
She was like, "Oh, I know what that book is."
Yeah, and I
How
mean
about
the book doesn't
So
even
sanctified,
have
you know
any-
what that book is. You was all up in
She
that
probably
book.
read it, and that's how she knew before I was reading it. But yeah, so they were like, "Oh, your house is not in order, and your daughter's reading these terrible books." And I'm like, "Well, there's really nothing crazy going on. It's just a life about some girls who were in a home, and they were kind of ghetto, and they went through some things." Okay, cool, but yeah, that was a hard time in my life because it was like I was blamed for them sitting him down.
Oh, let's definitely let's hold that your father was sat down because of
And then she became the object
your
of scorn
your
in the church,
disobedience.
right?
Yeah, so can I also say in that time period, the pastor at the time, his daughter was pregnant.
Oh, shoot.
Another
Oh,
elder,
this just got real.
his daughter had just had an abortion. It was very well known.
So between these two leaders and their daughters that did these atrocities versus you just bringing a hood book into the sanctuary and your father got sat down,
Yeah.
what did they do with the other two?
Oh, we're gonna love this child. You know, it's not the child's fault that, you know, they were brought here.
Right.
We're not gonna treat my daughter or the grandchild any differently. We're gonna accept
So
them.
the unfair discipline
Right.
that was given in the church.
Very much so.
You know, I mean, as much as I, you know, that last part was kind of like, yikes. But I'm not going to let you off the hook. I'm sorry. I'm just not. Your father and your mother preached, and they lived what they preached. We checked that off. They were involved in making sure that you understood the things of God. Check. You had one who was, let's say, good cop, bad cop. Right? Cool. But they made sure they did as much as they could, raising you up in the things of God. Read, meditate, pray, fast, whatever the case may be. Check. And ma'am, you still went astray. So my question more so is, how did you feel alone and abandoned as a PK when you've seen your parents living the correct thing and they're involved in your life? What led to this abandonment? What led to being alone? It doesn't sound like from what you're explaining they were out on convocation somewhere, or
Meaning her parents were
Yeah.
out, yeah.
they were out and about. So, you know, why wouldn't you be able to look to them and go to them and lean on them? Like, where was the alone and the abandonment? And we're definitely going to get back to your father getting sat down because of your sinful ways. But what led to, I just want to know how did you still feel abandoned and alone?
So I was in the house, right? It's kind of like how you go to Walmart. There are hundreds of people there,
Okay.
but you're still there by yourself.
Okay.
You get it? So like I'm in a household full of people, but because my behavior did not align with the standards of that particular household, and you have outside people who may be respected or revered, they're saying these things about your child. So then instead of you kind of embracing your child and coaching them through that tough time, you're taking the opinions and the thoughts and the suggestions of these people and you're applying them to your household. When these same people have not even enforced these laws and rules in their own household. So back to one of the words I said earlier, being unheard. There was nothing that I could ever do to advocate for myself, because if an adult said it, you did it. And I had people that literally lied on me, and I would be like 12 years old, like, see me outside because I know that you're lying, and I would be crying like I didn't do it.
Right.
But because you're the organist, or because you're an elder, or because you play the tambourine.
Whatever your position is, you have stature. Because
Yeah.
you have stature, your word is more relevant than
Yep.
a child's word.
And so I started to say, like, yo, I'm telling you, like, I didn't do this, and I'm your child, and you're not listening to me, you're not hearing me. And I went crazy, because I'm like, you're not going to listen to what I'm telling you anyway. I might as well go outside and see what's popping outside, you know? So that is literally what led me into my rebellion, like constantly being told, like, you're wrong. Why would an adult lie on you? You're not walking in the way of the Lord. And like, okay, but I'm trying, so.
Before the rebellion, you were saying that I'm trying, like you knew that there were some ways.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yeah. But because it just was like so much of the outsider influence had an impact on my home life. And your life is not even together.
Right.
But you have all of this advice from my dad when it comes to me.
Right.
Yeah, it was very hurtful. So I'm just like, well, y'all don't hear me anyway. You're not listening. So I'm just gonna do me, and then wherever I land, I land.
Oof, wherever you land. Well, thank God you're safe now, because we definitely know where you could have landed.
Wow.
But I just okay. So let me ask you this: do you feel like you could have been a better PK for your father, for him to not have to burden some of the things that he had to go through and deal with? I feel like you're just looking at it from your shoes and your perspective, which is cool and fine. But what about his perspective? I mean, he's reading scriptures that say, a bishop or a pastor is able, one who's able to rule the household like well. And he's reading these verses, right? Isn't that a verse?
So if that,
Steve, can you just let me finish, please? Because I already...
Right.
Is that a verse that says that
Yes.
one who's able to rule the household well?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to know, like...
Context, but yes.
All right. This guy... Sometimes we just, we look at things only through our shoes. So I'm just wanting to ask our PK sister here, Laresha, if, it sounds like, me. I was unheard. And, and I get you. I feel you. But it also seems like, too, maybe your father went unheard. Maybe he's reading these verses and seeing like, man, I'm doing everything that I can. I'm preaching, I'm teaching, I'm doing all these things faithfully. And, and you're going astray over here, and now I'm facing all this pressure and backlash. Like, was there ever a point where you felt like maybe if I just, lived according to the things of God righteously, it would have allowed my father to hear me more, because then he wouldn't have a need to come at me for certain things? Did it ever dawn on you to like look at it from that perspective at all?
I guess I would counter that with my own question. How would I be expected to obtain righteousness if I have not been allowed to develop and grow as an individual?
Okay.
Your question is leading.
So basically what you're saying is that you needed to have the time to be able to develop the fruit that, your father or other people in the ministry were expecting out of you. Mm-hmm. And it just was, I preach this message, live it right then and there. I give you, I can understand that. I'm definitely not a irrational person. I definitely can understand that a person just necessarily preaching a message, wanting something to happen like that isn't how fruit develops, right? We put a seed into the ground, we water it. Nobody expects that to blossom tomorrow.
But you're asking also for a PK kid that's an adolescent, not fully developed, not fully.
She's about 11, 12, something
12.
like that.
So you're telling me that's a fully developed mind?
No.
Okay. So you're asking a 12-year-old, an adolescent, to understand the pains of her father, and then she should be subject to whatever the condition of the church is creating for her for the sake of her father. So you're asking her to be the adult in the scenario. That's what you're asking.
I was just asking a question, but the way that you put it in that perspective, yeah, that would be tough.
The reason why I say that, because now as a pastor with children, I refuse to put my children in that predicament. I'm the adult. I'm the one that has to know how to manage adults in the church to make them understand this is a family first, church is second. So my children have to grow organically and help them to understand how to make decisions for themselves. Now, if they go astray, does that mean I abandon them? And then am I going to let a misinterpreted one verse out of the Bible in 1 Timothy about how the bishop should rule his house well?
Well, let's not get into that verse yet.
No, but it's very important in developing the thought process of the question that you asked and me countering it.
Okay.
Is that all of a sudden my lens gets very blurred and it becomes very narrow, because now I'm trying to fit, listen, a square peg in a round hole, making a child try to do something that they're not capable of doing right now. So I'm the adult. And to rule my house well isn't about my 11-year-old living a perfect Christian life. That's not ruling my house well.
Okay. Well, listen, we're at the 30-minute mark, and once we get to the 30-minute mark, I like
We've gone
to.
to 37 minutes before.
We have, but I think that there's some more things that I understand what you guys are saying, but I would definitely give some
I'll tell you
pushback.
what, Larissa, would you mind coming back for another episode so we can complete this? Will you be able to come back next week?
Sure. Will that be here?
I don't know.
Absolutely. Listen. I think you raised some great points, but I also think that there's some pushback to some of the things that you said towards the end. But I know that it would
I want to hear those pushbacks.
drag on a little longer. So, but I definitely want to pick back up on ruling the household well verse. Since you say that it's been taken out of context,
Completely.
And continue-
Damaging. It's been damaging.
and continue to work through Miss LaRussia's life as a PK, because I want to get into some more interesting questions on, what did she feel as though that her father or mother could have done more with, and work through those challenges as a PK and do that. But we're definitely going to address that verse, because I think that you have some issues in your way of using that verse as well too. So, any other questions or thoughts before we get out of here and wrap this up and come back next week for episode 36? All hearts and minds cleared right now so far?
Yeah. I can't wait for next week.
I can't wait.
Tune in.
Episode 36. We're
Tune
picking
in.
up part 2. I'm not holding back. I'm just going to ask the questions.
Do it.
It's Reeeal Talk.
I love it.
God bless.